Okay, good morning, guys. It's July 20th, and I am out in the cover crop field. This was a field of wheat. We did not interseed red clover in it because I knew that I wanted to plant a somewhat diverse cover crop. Well, uh, I've said in the last couple of videos, I've talked a little bit about the rain. Well, it keeps raining. And so everything on this hill that could go wrong with the cover crop went wrong. Starting out with, the week before I combined the wheat in June there, we had that wet period where we had, like just short of 9 inches of rain. That hurt the test weight on the wheat a little bit, but to make a long story short, when I cut the wheat, the ground was wet. And so I worked the ground too wet, and then it proceeded to rain again. And after I had disked the ground, combined the wheat, that was in the month of July. I can't remember the day, probably the 2nd or 3rd. Might have been the 4th of July. I don't think I was combining on the 4th though. But I think I'd already moved on to oats by then. But to make a long story short, we got out here and we disked the stubble, and it was a little bit wet. And so I want to show you the surface here. Awful cloddy and awful hard and just lousy with moisture. Well, after I got done disking, it rained. And so I was out of the field for another 4 days, and then the field kind of halfway got somewhat dry again, and they were talking more rain, and so I came out and I field cultivated the field, and I planted the cover crop, and yes, it rained again that night. And so there's places here where the clay is just, it's like concrete. I worked the ground wet, and then I planted, and then it rained again. But Sudan and cowpeas, the good thing about it raining like that was that all the turnips came. Dane broadcast turnips out here, but it rained, I think, 1.10 or 1.20 the night after I planted this. And then thankfully it did stay wet for a little bit. So anyway, there are the cowpeas coming. They've come perfectly. We are experimenting with cowpeas this year. We have some black-eyed cowpeas, and then we have the iron and clay. The Sudan came, but I can see in the Sudan row that some of the Sudan did not make it through because the ground is it's like concrete. But that's a nice thing. I think the Sudan in the row was planted at about 240,000 population, and so there's enough Sudan there that even if it doesn't come perfect, it'll come fine. And there's some volunteer wheat and some volunteer rye, not volunteer rye, some planted rye, and there's turnips coming real good. And the cowpeas, they're little soldiers. They came through, they emerged very well in these horrible conditions. And so we're at day 5. And being able to row them at day 5, that's a very good thing. Very, very good thing. So that's what we have. And like I said, it rained 1.10 the night I planted this, and so everything is coming here. Everything is coming, and I was concerned about emergence issues because there's a real good look at what the ground does when you work it too wet. But luckily, I guess there's enough straw residue in the ground. The wheat did pretty good on the hill here. I guess there's enough straw residue in the ground that it was forgiving somewhat for me working the ground that wet. But our cows will have very good grazing here in another 30 days. And so and we will have broken the weed cycle a little bit with the Sudan. So things are what they are. Thanks.